Welcome to Fintech Uncut, the quiz show with candid commentary on the biggest fintech and financial services news of the week that was. Disclaimer: this show is created purely for entertainment purposes and contains segments of sarcasm, satire, parody, and humor. Even if you don't think any of it is funny, the creators do not accept any responsibility or liability for the accuracy of any content shared and reminded you to always fact-check everything yourself. And now, it's over to your Quizmaster.
Hello everyone, welcome at Fintech Uncut, the quiz show with candid commentary on the week's biggest fintech and financial services stories with the wise guy, the other guy, and Judge Mary. Curious how my big cold is affecting my skills as a host, or more importantly, my skills as a singer? Don't worry, I got some Japanese medicine here with me, and I hope that will help me out later in the show.
It doesn't affect your skills as a singer, Rik. Just to be clear. Yeah, it's still just as bad.
That's probably
Rik's
worse.
just getting into the spirit of it.
All right.
Ah, there we go.
I'm going to start with the first question. If you start interrupting me here already, no more introductions then. First question. A sword wields no strength unless the hand that holds it has courage, is a quote from a famous game. And I cannot give you the name before you share me the answer on the following question. Which hand proved this week to have the courage to stand against and or with the big American banks?
I reckon standing with the banks was the former senior prosecutor of the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, who went on CBS and said that he's got proof that Donald Trump had inflated his property values by over $400 million in order to secure loans from banks. One of which, by the way, was Deutsche Bank, where Donald Trump completely, apparently, allegedly, so I don't get held for liable, he completely misrepresented the size of the properties that he owned.
Yeah. I mean, Donald Trump's quite good at inflating things, isn't he?
Well,
I mean, you can't mention hand to an Englishman because I'm offended by the word, literally because it's the hand of God, which was Maradona in the 1986 quarterfinal of the World Cup against England when he was playing for Argentina. And he literally scored the first goal with his hand. And he admitted it in his autobiography. So any mention of hand, and I feel offended.
ooh, it's a bit of British history there that I didn't know that he had admitted it in there.
Yeah, eventually. Basically, he and Peter Shilton, the English goalkeeper, were jumping for the ball, and he just punched it into the net. And for some reason, the referee and the linesman didn't notice. That's why we have VAR, which makes it 10 times worse.
But that's not standing with a bank. I reckon that another people who had the courage to come out and stand with the banks was a bank themselves. JP Morgan banned all of its staff from using ChatGPT. So, Rik, if you were working at JP Morgan, you wouldn't be able to get ChatGPT to ask the questions for you, which is, I know, one of your sneaky things that you do.
Not
and
true. I haven't done that so far.
Just because we have to throw it in, it wouldn't be anything to do with Elon Musk making Twitter a super app. You've got to mention them at least once a week.
Yeah, of course.
Go to hit. All right. What about banks? What's going on here with banks in this answer?
I think Rik has to give us more of a cryptic clue there with his mentioning the name of the game that he was talking about. I have no idea what game he's talking about there.
Well, the quote comes from a game called Zelda.
Zelda. So maybe it's something that rhymes with Zelle. Like, I don't even know how you pronounce it. Is that how you pronounce it? Zelle?
Gel. Oh, Zelle.
Where is this going?
I don't know. Maybe it's poetry class.
How do you pronounce it, Mary? It's very much an American thing. Zelle. Okay, I didn't know whether it was Zelle or Zelly. It's got 2 L's and an E for crying out loud. If it was Zelle, it should just be Z-E-L, not Z.
Calls himself a fintech expert.
Zelle, yeah. So Zelle made a big splash by telling everybody that they've now got over 1,800 financial institutions that have joined them. What's the big deal about Zelle over in the States, Mary? I mean, can't you guys pay with P2P? We've had that for years using our banks. Why is why is Zelle such a big thing over there?
Well, there's a lot of stuff going on here, but Zelle, I think definitely handles more money than Venmo, but like, you know, it depends like who you are, what age you are, but like Venmo is still really popular here. But Zelle, you know, when it's already in your bank app, maybe you'll just use it, but it's also the focus of a lot of fraud. Like there are a lot of headlines going on how much fraud's going on with Zelle. So, you know, it's growing, but so are the financial issues.
Yeah, I think I saw a reference to, volume was up by about 40%, and they've now got 1,800 banks on board.
That's quite impressive, I think. I don't know how many banks there are in the States, but close to 2,000 financial institutions isn't bad, right?
Yeah. And they're talking about having handled over $1 trillion over the last 2 years for just basically a P2P payments app. Which again, I'm like sitting here from the European side going, huh? But all of our banks do P2P payments anyway. But it's obviously a very American thing. Like Venmo, we don't have that either.
You don't have that either. Okay. Well, yeah. And the people make oopsie payments and then they can't get it back. So that's
oopsie payments.
Oopsie payments is real. Rick, we know who's evil in this crowd. All right. Points. I don't know. This one's kind of a hard one, but you know, Chris sort of dissed on Trump a little bit. Okay, Chris 6, Andrew 5.
All right, next question. Gonna start with a quote again. I think what we need to do is have a clear set of rules and regulations to keep people safe, and that keeps your money safe. Outside of those boundaries, companies need to have the room to be creative so that they can come up with all kinds of things. Which company hit the news this week by successfully leveraging on its creativity?
I'm not sure whether I can name a specific company, but I can think of the difficulty we have when we work in financial services and use the word creativity because it's not allowed. Having said that, if I wasn't about keeping money safe and being creative, the nearest I would get would be maybe to having a locked space where you could throw money around from place to place and exchange it freely with your friends. And that would therefore be a cryptocurrency stored on a Ledger Nano X, which is $150. And it's a great cold wallet that you can give to your mates or use wherever and whenever you want. It's probably not that, but that's what it should be.
And did they hit the news?
No.
Then it's not the right answer.
Disqualified answer. You know, was it Meta for charging, coming out and charging people for social media verification? And they certainly hit the news, but it wasn't very creative, was it?
It wasn't very successful either.
They just
no, wrong answer.
They copied Elon Musk.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of anything in the news about finance and creativity, to be honest. So,
no, I mean, Google we know is creative. They've also hit the news for being creative. They're creatively getting their employees to start formally sharing their desks. They literally are creating pools of tribes with a director to make sure that desk sharing takes place between the 2 and 3 day a week split. No, that's not very creative either, is it?
Well, it's creative to annoy people.
Mary.
Yes.
Mary, how can we get these guys back in line of the quiz?
All right. We got to give them a hint because they need a little help, I'd say. What would the hint be? Oh,
it's probably something obscure to do with Belgium, and nobody knows anything about what's happening in Belgium anyway.
Oh, that could
no
be.
one cares.
It's not from Belgium.
Except Belgium.
Not from Belgium. Does involve making money. So, hint 1.
Is it that all the banks in Europe are recording record profits? And that wasn't the headlines this week. The European banks, like the American banks, are having a bumper record year because everybody needs to borrow money.
Thing is, I can give you a tip, but if I give you that tip, you probably know the answer. So
Did you say a bunker year? Was it something to do with bunq maybe? Because their income grew by 37% compared to the previous quarter, and they've been very creative in what they do, offering a global account. Matter of fact, I don't know whether or not it's available in the UK, but according to their site, it's an account globally for people and with zero transfer fees.
I actually misread their name. I thought that was bunq.
You want a bung?
Yeah, I'd love a bunq. Thank you. In a brown envelope. Works every time.
Well, yeah, the quote that I shared also came from an interview that I had with their CEO, Ali Niknam, who was, I believe, in a panel with you, Chris, last year at the Banking Scene Conference in Brussels. And indeed, he successfully leveraged his creativity in building a new kind of bank, a challenger bank that is making a profit today.
Yeah, we don't like those. We much prefer them to get record losses and keep borrowing money for series rounds from venture capitalists. But there's no venture capital around these days, so maybe that's a reason why they have to make a profit.
What do you think is like crucial to a challenger bank being able to make money? Like, how do they do it when so many don't?
Well, the key for challenger banks is to actually have a decent amount of exposure on its balance sheet to loans. And it's the issue that many of the challengers get wrong. They get the deposits and they get the customers. They don't get a lot of deposits because people use it for everyday banking and they don't make enough loans. And that way, it's a zero profit game. In fact, it's the reason why I do respect Starling Bank, because Starling Bank is one of the few in the UK that is run by a bank who understands that balance sheet income ratio, and they're getting pretty close, like bunq, to getting it right.
Yeah. I think
one of my favorite banks, in fact, that was a startup. I don't know how they're doing. You might know better than me, Rik, but it was NAB, which is bank spelled backwards. And then I thought NAB, like bunq, is a great way to get money for free. You never heard of it?
That's the phase that you expected 13 editions ago. Like, what is he saying?
People always ask me that.
But yeah, bunq, I think they even bought, I think, a mortgage portfolio or a mortgage institution to make sure that the assets that they have on their balance sheet start making a profit as well. And that was a result of the very bad interest rates that they got on the interbank market the last couple of years. So by building on that, by also adding the boring part, but the elementary part for me in banking, they have a much better foundation to start building on a profit instead of just doing the fun things like the usual neobanks do. They try to build very good daily banking offerings, but daily banking doesn't make a profit.
And also daily banking doesn't make a profit because the UK, we don't pay for our daily banking. I don't pay for any of the bank accounts I have. I know that it's quite commonplace in Europe to pay a monthly fee for a bank account. What's it like in America, Mary? Do you pay for your bank accounts at all? A monthly fee?
Not willingly.
Do you have a bank account?
Not what?
Do you have a bank account?
Or is it all just cash these days? Yeah.
Yeah, just all cash. No, but some of our challenger banks will do a subscription model, and so people are paying for that. But I still think it's a hard sell. People are used to a free account, regardless of how bad that free account is. But like here, fees like overdraft fees are dropping. Credit card fees are under pressure right now to drop it to 8. So like money's going to come from somewhere, and it's probably somewhere bad.
Yep.
With that ominous sentence said, Chris still has the advantage here, and I'm going to give him 7. And Andrew, I'm going to give you 5. But we don't know which way this game will go yet.
That is correct. I think the next question suits Andrew more than it suits Chris.
Sure, I've got the answer here.
Web 3.0 is about to come, but what should not be in it according to the World Wide Web inventors?
Old people like Chris Skinner.
That is correct, but not the right answer.
I'm looking forward to the metaverse because it must be maybe pizza or gin and tonic, whorehouses. Oh no, it's probably banks.
But hang on, you're saying whorehouses. So everybody knows, everybody in tech knows that if you can't use a new piece of technology for porn, it's just going to fail. So porn and whorehouses and that, they're a given in the metaverse. I mean,
I didn't know,
otherwise,
Mr. Innovator.
it's 100%. It's one of the key tests of any new technology. Can it be used for porn? If the answer is yes, then back it. It's going to fly.
I mean, there's actually a
Porn
few.
and gambling, the biggest gay industries in the world in tech.
So there's a challenge of neobanks. I should have tested daily banking first in porn.
No, I've actually written quite a lot about sex and gambling driving innovation in finance, because if you can't pay for the sex, if you can't pay for the gambling, then you can't get the innovators, the criminals, being able to do business. So all the things we've seen, like the internet, only took off because of sex and gambling. And there's a book called The Erotic Machine that explains the camera, the movie camera, everything that's gone on in history that's been an innovation has always been driven by criminals and sex and gambling.
Really interesting, but let's get back to the question. I think gambling is a good hint in the right direction.
But maybe it's I said they need banks in the metaverse, and I'm guessing maybe a couple of banks have launched or will partner with Meta, because when Second Life exploded in the mid-2000s, it collapsed because the bank collapsed, Ginkgo Bank. And that's because Ginkgo Bank was not a bank in real life. And it ended up that Linden Labs, who ran Second Life, said to be a bank in the metaverse, you have to be a bank in the real world. Otherwise, it doesn't work because there's no license. It turned out Ginkgo Bank was run by a 32-year-old Brazilian student in Sao Paulo who ran away with 700,000 real US dollars and bought himself a Ferrari and a flat. So is it something to do with banks in the metaverse?
I think it's to do with actually, he doesn't like cryptocurrency. And he also says that the metaverse shouldn't be built on blockchain. As a matter of fact, he likens cryptocurrency to gambling. He says it's absolutely rubbish. So he might want banks in the metaverse.
Who's he?
Tim Berners-Lee.
Oh, I thought you meant Mark Zuckerberg, sorry.
No. So Tim Berners-Lee, regularly credited with being the inventor of the World Wide Web. And we've seen that Rick's question said, according to the World Wide Web inventor, there was an interview recently.
I'm just impressed by your wisdom that you actually knew that, who that was. It's amazing.
At least 30 points.
Yeah, at least 30 points, I think, there. Sir Tim Berners-Lee. But yeah, he's not happy with Web3 and is quite insistent. Actually, he's quite pedantic because he says it's Web 3.0, which is nothing to do with what everybody's cramming in and calling Web 3 and all this kind of thing. As a matter of fact, it was quite an impassioned interview that he had done. And yeah, he doesn't like crypto, and he likes blockchain even less, saying it's not fast or secure enough to support the next evolution of the World Wide Web.
I think he did say that it could be useful for things like remittances, because at least, peer-to-peer cross-border payments between people who don't have bank accounts.
But we know that Zelle can do that anyway, Zelle. So,
but we also know that they're only in the States, so not for remittances.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mary, what are the
for the caveat. All right, you thought Andrew was going to win this round, and yes, he did. Andrew for 12, Chris for 9. Strong add-on with the remittance aspect, but give it up for Andrew.
For once, I get one.
All right, for the next question, I accept the negative points, and I'm gonna have an extra drink here.
Well, getting into the spirit.
Billy Joel once sang, "I've lived long enough to have learned, the closer you get to the fire, the more you get burned. But that won't happen to us, 'cause it's always been a matter of trust." Some seem to have forgotten this is also essential in financial services. What am I talking about?
Oh no.
Don't get Rick on a karaoke party.
And I thought you would have used Billy Joel's song about banking rather than that one. Have you heard his song about banking?
That would have been too easy.
Yeah, it's called "We Didn't Open the Account." It goes something like HSBC, BOA, Rabobank, Fidelity, Starling Bank, FOA, Nubank, ICBC, bunq, Tink, DOA, Visa, Amex, ABC, Crypto, Monzo, AML, yes, no, KYC. We didn't open the account, but it's open now, so deposit now. I'll stop there.
Actually, Chris, my first plan was to bring back the Pay by Ass song of Money 2020 back in the days, but I couldn't find the lyrics.
I remember that one. It's on YouTube somewhere. You can find
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I remember that too. Oh my.
Anyway,
So you're talking about trust.
some organizations seem to have forgotten that it's all about trust in financial services. What am I talking about?
So my question is, you're saying some. If you look at the latest Edelman Trust Barometer, which has just been published, financial services once again is second to last. The second least trusted industry in the world. Only social media is the only industry that's trusted less than financial services at the moment. And the freaking fashion industry is still trusted more than financial services. So I don't know what you're saying. Some of them seem to have forgotten. Exactly.
Can I ask you, Andrew, not to generalize?
Why?
Just because you're killing my question here.
Well, I've got to tell you that Edelman's got it wrong, because you need to separate it between trust in the brand versus trust in the company. And people trust banks because they know that they'll get their money back, because they've got the FDIC and various institutions regulating behind them for deposit-based accounts. Whereas you wouldn't trust a social media company with no license to do that.
That's why I like you, Chris. That's why I like you.
But come on, banks are trying to encourage trust with their customers, and yet they don't accept cash deposits anymore. There was a story about that this week. I mean, Chris, you had shared that with us. I mean, more and more banks are no longer accepting cash. I mean, what's a bank for if it's not to put your money into?
Well, it's interesting because I'm here in Amsterdam, and the Dutch, some years ago, in fact, first of all, eradicated the use of checks. And then about 3 years ago, eradicated the depositing of checks from overseas. So if you sent me a check, Mary, I couldn't actually go to my bank and bank it here because they don't accept them. And that's a big difference here. And I mean, getting to the core of the question, I guess, one of the big things right now is there's so many new banks, challenger banks, neobanks, e-money licensed firms. And certainly BaFin, I think we spoke about last week, has clamped down on N26 and a number of other German startup banks. And I think the FCA is now saying the same thing and doing the same thing.
Right.
And the FCA is the Financial Conduct Authority of the UK, just for those who don't know the acronyms.
He's sharp this week, Mary.
Yeah, he is sharp this week. Damn.
I'm a sharp-dressed man, actually.
He's the Renaissance man, seeing that he's just been at the Renaissance event.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not wearing my FU t-shirt. I'm wearing my Mars Explorer.
Oh, nice.
Oh, another Elon Musk t-shirt then. Occupy Mars.
Andrew, do you want to try to one-up Chris here?
Well, no, he's spot on there. The Financial Conduct Authority has warned specifically e-money firms in the UK that they better sharpen their act, because they need a significant shift in culture and behavior if they're going to comply with the new consumer duty rules. Interesting to see that a lot of headlines were capitalizing on consumer duty rules and calling it Call of Duty, just to gain the attention of all of the gamers out there as well. That was quite amusing.
That's amusing and manipulative. How?
And more points, definitely more points there.
More points. So this FCA, how powerful are they?
Oh, the financial.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but basically, you've got the Treasury, you've got the Prudential Regulatory Authority, which create the rules, and then the FCA is the one that's implement and make sure you adhere to the rules. So anything to do with compliance and keeping your bank license, it's the FCA who does the checks and inspections.
Yeah, you don't want to fall foul of the FCA. That's it. You lose your ability to trade. And
That's significant. All right. Points. Chris, 6. No, I lied. 0.7. Andrew, 6.
Do I not get extra points for singing the song?
No, yeah.
Maybe
It's much
maybe
better than
not.
mine.
Maybe or maybe not. Arbitrarily, we'll decide at the end.
Okay.
The next question is too easy for Mary. So hopefully it will be a good battle between our wise guy and the other guy. What marked the end of an era this week in the American banking industry, but also the American banking history?
I got there before you. The last check was written.
No, that's way too early. Way too soon.
The last branch was closed.
No,
I
way
was
too
gonna-
soon.
I was going to say they finally outlined a plan to abolish all checks by 2124.
It sometimes feels that way. Gotta tell you.
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, the
think
end of an
they'll-
era in banking. Did Jamie Dimon retire?
No, but Jamie Dimon did actually make the news. He said that remote work slows down honesty and decision making, and as he's forcing all of his workers back in the office. So there's an end of an era of remote working for the big banks. It looks like Goldman Sachs made this a similar announcement a year ago, saying all of their staff have to come full-time back in the office. That's it now. No more remote working. So actually, both of those, it's an end of an era for remote working in banks, end of the COVID era, and they're pulling everybody back in. I think that all they're going to do is hemorrhage employees who have gone, actually, that's a really terrible idea.
I think Jamie Dimon could learn a lesson or two from Monzo, as we saw last week, where we were talking about the fact that they're monitoring exactly how much keyboard time their employees spend when they're working from home, and it's got to be above 85% ratio to their working day. Otherwise, they can get fired.
Wow, extra points for Chris.
I mean, there was a specific announcement by Bank of America that actually used the word end of an era. And that was only this week as well. According to them, the era of free money is over as ZIRP comes to an end, the zero interest rate policy, where for years, tech companies specifically have been able to leverage 0% interest to be able to fuel massive growth. And now the analyst for Bank of America has predicted an expected return to the old economy when it comes to investors, investing back in energy, materials, industrials, and things like that. And that headline actually did say end of an era of free money.
It's really interesting, but I'm referring to something much more important.
Much more fun, much more exciting.
Yeah.
Open an account with bunq. Can you tell us, Mary? Because I'm stuck, unless you know, Andrew.
No, this is definitely too American.
Opening a bank account with a bear. That would be a lot closer to the answer, isn't it?
Mary's going to have to be telling us about this one because.
Okay, so this one caught my eye because this is the kind of story I would love writing and would write. But banks, I didn't realize this actually, but banks have been having mascots like way back when in the US, like people dressed up as animals, probably at the sporting events, probably at a branch opening, and they're like retiring. So the article in American Banker is detailing how all these, I want to call them furries, but I'm not talking.
Porn, furry.
I once did a presentation dressed up as a teddy bear.
Okay, so Chris is a part of
the
it.
reason was that we were trying to raise money for a campaign to put a statue of a bear in Edinburgh Prince's Gardens, which
Is it at an extra fee?
Well, if you want me to do it at the banking
Watch
scene,
out with your
I'm
answer now.
I'm happy to do that if you throw in a little bit extra incentive. Yeah, no problem. Or I might just arrive naked because that's bear.
Suddenly
Don't go there. Don't go there.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you have these adults dressed in costumes in other countries? No. This is
Very.
You have that for football clubs.
Yeah.
I mean, in Japanese bank branches, they have robots that greet you.
Okay.
But they're not mascots. They're branch
they're not
employees.
mascots. Actually, my last company had a mascot, and it was always so weird. And I went to school at Pepperdine, which is in California, so there's mascots for schools, but ours was Willie the Wave. So that one was weird as well, but they're all
Waving
coming.
your willy. What?
What is right? All right, let's end this round. 0-0. Take it.
All right, next question. And it was not written by ChatGPT, but I did get help from ChatGPT. The term Switzerland of blockchain is used to describe Switzerland's position as a leader in the global blockchain industry and refers to the country of Switzerland's reputation as a hub for blockchain and cryptocurrency innovation and adoption. Who else wants to be the Switzerland of blockchain?
I reckon that because you're quoting ChatGPT and ChatGPT is stuck in 2021, I think the question should be disqualified. That's just not even a thing.
All right, we're at the end of our show. Mary, what are the points?
I've actually been to Switzerland many times, and the only thing I ever remember doing there was going up in the mountains, buying expensive watches, and it reminds me always of the character Harry Lime, who you may not be familiar with, but there's a film called The Third Man where Orson Welles played Harry Lime, and it's a classic film from the 1940s, but there's a quote that he gives in the middle of the film, which I use in lots of presentations. And the quote is this, which is, in Italy, for 30 years under the Borgias, they had warfare, terror, murder, bloodshed, but they produced Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, and the Renaissance. In Switzerland, they had brotherly love, 500 years of democracy and peace. And what did that produce? The cuckoo clock.
Excellent. I mean, I think
really
that,
funny, but not an answer to my question.
No, I know it's nothing to do with your question. I just like using that quote.
I think this would probably resonate with Mary, because she's not in the EU, and having travelled to America and places further afield than that. Yes, there are places further afield than America. Outside of the EU, people don't think Switzerland is a country. They think it's an adjective. I'm the Switzerland of secrets. And they use it as a,
Mary, you're on mute, by the way.
So I think that this comment of being the Switzerland of blockchain, I think that that's probably every single blockchain startup in Silicon Valley at the moment. Like they went through that whole Uber for X or Airbnb for Y phase. They're now going, oh, we're the Switzerland of blockchain. That's got to be it.
I've got to tell you, I am the big Swiss cheese.
There we go. See, it's an adjective. It's not
Actually,
a real...
Andrew is getting very close to the right answer.
Andrew is go deeper, Andrew.
Germany. Russia.
Well, I think the clue's on screen. Belgium wants to be the Switzerland of...
Not another Belgian story.
After all the many stories about Belgium that we had in this show.
It really tickled I thought it was very amusing because the Belgian Secretary of State has come out and said he wants to make Belgium the Switzerland of blockchain. Well, hang on, isn't Switzerland the Switzerland of blockchain? I mean, how can Belgium be the Switzerland of blockchain?
Well, they renaming the country Belchain.
You know what? They will probably. You better trademark that word because Belgium.
India does have the India chain, and that's true. So why not rename Belgium Belchain? It sounds good.
Buy the URL quickly.
And import a load of Swiss cows with bells on.
I mean, they've even set up an association, Blockchain for Belgium, a platform for everybody to collaborate.
Is that like Airbnb?
Yeah, something like that.
B&B
Probably even worse. Airbnb is trying to make a profit.
So it's all about Belchain then.
Yeah, it's.
Are you pulling my Belchain?
I found a real what the fuck story, and maybe I shouldn't because I'm supposed to be proud of the initiatives in Belgium, but this was just another example of how digitalization should not be developed. Mathieu Michel, he's a brother of Charles Michel, the president of the European Council.
Whoa.
So he's quite an important guy, and well, he tried putting digital more on the agenda of the government by suggesting an alternative for It's Me, a digital identity solution, which I think was a completely wrong approach of investing Belgian money, because It's Me is a very good product to show what we can do in Belgium. Now with blockchain, he seems to misunderstand what the Switzerland of blockchain can mean, because Switzerland, they have Zouk already, which is more or less like one of the Silicon Valleys of at least cryptocurrency. So I don't really know what he means with that comparison. But yeah, right now he set up an association to bring people together to think about possible ways to promote blockchain and to build more blockchain companies, etc. in Belgium. But very honestly, I'm not very confident.
Is it true that Belgium is going to drop the use of the euro and switch to Bitcoin?
No, but I heard they were going to look into the doggy coins.
Doggy coins. I thought they were bell coins.
No, they're
Bell
looking
coins
at
on the bell
speed
chain.
right now.
All right.
No, none of that. So Switzerland on blockchain, not that sure if that's the right ambition for a security state of digitalization to have, but that's the situation we're in right now in Belgium.
Thank you for carrying us home, Rik. Points would have gone to you, but instead 7 points for Chris, 8 points for Andrew. Plus, I did decide to add 2 for Chris for his song of earlier. However, Andrew won!
Yes! My first one of the year! Applause!
Oh. Fitch.
All right, guys, it looks like we're at the end of our show.
Yep. I just want to say, Andrew, F you.
Thank you, everyone. I cannot wait for more international fintech news coming soon. If you like our show, make sure you register on our website for the newsletter to be the first to know about new episodes. If you're a really big fan, make sure that you look at the merchandise we have. It's great, it's warm, and it's gives you a very good exposure to the outside world that you like Fintech Uncut as well. And I can reassure you, having FU on your shirt or your hoodie is the best conversation starter you can have.
It's the heart of fintech fashion.
Oh, fintech, yeah. More on that later. Don't forget to subscribe on whatever channel you're on. This was the 13th episode of Fintech Uncut. We hope to entertain you, your colleagues, your friends, your connections and followers, your cats and dogs, and more very soon again. Speak later. Bye-bye.